tired of hitting poor shots and shooting high scores? Wouldn't it be nice to make solid, consistent contact more often? Hit more fairways off the tee and more greens with your approach shots. Lower your 3 putts per round and shoot lower scores consistently. Lessons with Bernard Sheridan at Impact Zone Golf at Tiburon Golf Club in Naples is the fastest way to lower your scores and start making the game fun again. Call 239-236-5536 and schedule your lesson today. Remember, if you improve your impact, you improve your game. It's that simple.
Welcome to Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan, the golf podcast that interviews the best and brightest minds in the golf industry. Now, here's your host, Bernard Sheridan.
David, thanks so much for being with us today on Breaking Par.
Bernie, thank you for having me here. It's terrific.
So, tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got involved in it. Where did you start?
Well, what I do is what most people will consider it is a mental game coach. My focus for the world of golf is helping golfers put it all together. So golfers go take their lessons, they read books, they study up on the game and so on and so forth. But what's missing for most golfers is this way of putting everything together, what I'm calling alignment, mentally, physically, emotionally, and energetically. So when golfers put it all together, that's when they reach the high end of their skill level and talent level. So that's what I spend my time doing. And how it all started? Well, it started for me actually as a tennis player, because I used to be a tennis pro, and I competed quite a lot when I was younger, and I had difficulties in competition, meaning that I was a great practice player, but when the match started, I kind of lost it. So I was a mental midget. Mentally, I couldn't handle things well. Emotionally, I couldn't handle things well. And I studied and I read all the books and I tried to figure out how to get better at that, because I understood that that was more important. My physical game was great. I looked really good. And I ended up losing a really important match in the first round of a big tournament in New York. And I was so disgusted and frustrated that I got back out to my car and started pounding the roof of my car with my rackets, just yelling and screaming. And that's what led me to go back to what I understood when I was younger, because I always understood the mind-body relationship. And then I realized that, wait a minute, there are certain aspects of this. There are laws by which the mind-body relationship functions. And I went back and I discovered 7 laws that I put together in a sequence, and that became the Wired to Win program that I'm delivering now.
So give us an insight into what some of those laws are and how they don't just parallel golf, but parallel other sports and actually parallel life.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the laws, kind of wink, wink, nod, nod, really have nothing to do with golf. But when a golfer calls me, we point the laws toward performance in golf. When somebody else calls me, like a leadership thing or a supervisor on the job, then we point the same laws towards producing more effective leadership or more effective managership. So the laws are really interesting because what I've really done is I didn't invent the laws. Okay, law number 1, for example, is the law of awake and asleep, and what that's really doing is showing people how asleep they really are. And when I say asleep, what I mean is that you do the same things out of rote habit. You think the same way, you feel the same way, you talk the same way, and you do the same thing day after day after day. Or you react the same way. Somebody does something, you hit a ball in the water, your reaction is boom, I get mad, I get down, I get depressed, I lose confidence. Those are automatic reactions of being asleep. And so with law number 1, people wake up right away, and the moment they're awake, they start doing everything better. Because when a person is conscious, everything changes. So each law builds on the one before. And the names of the laws, by the way, are not rocket science. The law number 1, the law of awake and asleep. Law number 2, the law of focused energy, where I'm talking about energy in a way that most people never really heard before, simplifying it. Law number 3, the law of mental focus. Okay? These words are not new, but the magic is in the conversation. The magic is in the insights and the description that lead up to the law. So the laws are really interesting. And, when I talk to people around, sports psychologists or life coaches or whoever they may be, everybody has a lot of principles. They say, well, I have my 7 principles of peak performance or my 7 principles of leadership. But principles are not laws. And here's the difference, Bernie. With a law, you don't have to believe in a law for a law to do what it does, for it to affect you. With a principle, you have to buy it. You have to believe in it. It has to make sense to you. So the learning curve with the laws is pretty much zero, which surprises a lot of people because you don't have to believe in the law for it to work. And can I give you 2 examples of laws?
Absolutely.
Okay. These are not one of the 7 laws, but just to explain a law is something that applies to everybody, everywhere, at all times. And all laws do is produce results. So that's the premise. Every law produces an outcome. And I give 2 examples. One is the law of physics. So you're a golf pro. So golf pros are teaching the law of physics all the time. When the face of the golf club is a certain way upon contact, that ball has a precise and predictable reaction, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's a law. So if you're slicing the ball all over the place on the golf course and you don't want to, you can't turn to me and say, hey, Dave, that law stinks. No, the law's fine. You're just not applying it properly. Okay? The other example is, of course, the one everybody knows, gravity. Gravity is a law. Everybody understands that. So, Bernie, let's say you and I are up at an airplane. We're traveling at 15,000 feet, and we're going to parachute. The door opens, and you walk over the door, and you're just about to step out, and you turn to me and you say, hey, Dave, I don't believe in gravity. Never have, never will. I'm just going to look at you and say, okay, fine. But when you step out, Bernie, what's going to happen to you?
Gravity's going to pull me to the earth.
That's right. You're going down. So the point of this is that the laws don't care what you think. They don't care whether you believe in them or not. They don't care what your opinion is. So I'm one of the few people that gets to say that to people, that your belief is not required for the laws to get you what you want. You just don't need to believe it. And everybody understands what I just said. They say, yeah, I get it, Dave. I get it that physics and gravity don't really care if I believe in them or not. They just do what they do, right? Yes. Okay. What they don't understand is that there are laws that are just as precise, just as predictable, and just as provable as physics and gravity that are governing their game or their life. And that's where I begin.
So how can we, or how do you get your clients to take the laws and adapt them, or create them to work for them in their favor?
Well, it's really not a matter of them creating or adapting them. Here's the way it works. You learn a law, and then I give you a check-in question. And for the next 3 days, you're doing this on your own. And 3 things are going to happen. Number 1, you're going to see that the law of awake and asleep, for example, is real. And number 2, you're going to see that law has been producing results in your life or your game right now. And then number 3, you're going to use that very same law to make conscious choices. So it's not a matter of me laying out a bunch of tips and strategies, which is what 99.9% of models do. What really happens is the check-in question alerts that person to that law, and because they're at a higher level of consciousness, they're applying that law automatically without me actually telling them what to do. This is one of the beauties of the byproduct of the program. I don't have to tell anybody what to do for the most part. They apply the law. Let's go back to law number 1. They check in, they're awake, they make a new choice. And what's interesting is, let's say this particular golfer overreacts when they hit a bad shot. Their tendency is to get angry, get negative, poor self-talk, all the typical things.
Sure.
But when they check in, all of a sudden in that moment, they're checking in and they're awake. Because they checked in, they're awake. You can't be asleep and check in at the same time. So the moment you check in, you become awake. And in that moment, they choose to respond differently to that shot that they just hit. Literally, right in that moment, they're choosing to respond differently.
So how do they check in? Let's say I have a player, and that exact same thing happens. There's water on the right.
Okay.
He hits it off the tee. He hits it into the water.
Okay.
So what's the check-in question for him to become awake as opposed to asleep?
Here's the key. The moment that player feels themselves going off center, meaning a little bit frustrated, a little bit angry, a little bit negative, whatever it is for that player, the moment they feel that happening, that's when they check in. The check-in question for law number 1 is, am I awake or asleep right now? It's the stupidly, beautifully simple check-in question that people are shocked. That silly little question changes everything. Am I awake or asleep right now? Guess what the answer is going to be?
The answer is going to be that I'm asleep and that I need to wake up.
Bingo. No, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to do anything. Your brain is going to answer the question. You don't have to do anything except start the ball rolling by asking the question. Because here's what's going to happen, Bernie. It happens with everybody. The moment you ask the question, you're awake, right? You can't be asleep and ask that question at the same time. Do you agree?
I agree.
Good. Because that's reality. The moment you ask that question, you're awake. In that moment, you have a window in your mind, a window of time to make another choice. But now you're awake and you're conscious. So in that moment, you're going to make another choice. And players will often say to me, well, what choice should I make, Dave? I don't know. I don't know where you're going to do this. I don't know where you're going to check in. I don't know if you're going to be on the first hole and you hit the ball in the water. I don't know if you're going to be on the green, getting anxious over a putt. I don't know where you're going to be. I can't tell you exactly what choice to make. You may be in the supermarket getting ticked off that you're standing in line too long, or somebody might have cut you off on the road. I don't know where you're going to apply this. But the beauty of this, Bernie, is I don't have to tell you. In that moment, you have that window in your mind to make a new choice. Don't you know that you're going to make a better choice than the one that you made while you were sleeping?
It would make sense. It would make sense.
It makes way too much sense. Of course you are. When you're awake, you're never going to make a choice worse than the one that you've been making while you've been sleeping all this time. Because the one you're making while you're sleeping weakens you. It doesn't help you. You get anxious, you get angry, you get frustrated, you talk yourself down. You're not going to do those things. So the choice you're going to make is something like, oh, okay, well, I have an opportunity to make a new choice here. The choice I'm going to make is I'm going to look at this as just one shot. I'm going to look at this as I got a little anxious at the first tee because people were watching me. I get it. I'm going to look at this as no big deal. I'm going to look at this as a chance to make a better second shot now. Whatever the situation is. Now, here's the difference, Bernie. I could have given you those strategies. I could have said to you, like 99.9% of the world does, I could have said, hey, Bernie, next time you get in trouble, next time you're feeling a little anxious or you have a bad reaction, I want you to think more positively. I want you to think of a good memory, and I want you to start thinking about what you can do better from that moment on. On all of that is good advice, right?
Sure.
But the problem is it doesn't work. Because you're asking somebody to do that when they're already in a bad emotional state.
Right.
Too late.
Yeah, it's very difficult to change your emotional state at will.
That's right. And that's what the majority are asking you to do. But I'm not doing that. I'm saying check in and wake up. And when you wake up, you're already going to make a better choice on your own. On your own. Because in that moment of being awake, that emotional state pretty much disappears. And it's a beautiful sequence of events that happens. And that player is waking up throughout the round, where before they were just sleeping, reacting out of habit. But they're waking up, and the more they wake up, guess what performance quality is being strengthened by this? Any idea?
Well, their decision making, their course management, their
Well, definitely that, but what's the one thing every athlete wants more of?
consistency.
Another C word.
That's a good question.
What's another word that starts with a C that everybody wants more of? Starts with the same 3 letters. C-O-N.
Consciousness. I don't know.
Confidence.
Confidence. Okay, sure.
Now, consider this. I don't know what would make a person feel more confident than knowing that they can wake up at any moment they choose and make better choices at any moment. Automatically, Bernie, confidence is being built. Can you see that?
Sure.
Automatically. So confidence is one of those things that I actually don't have to talk about with my students, because they're constantly building their confidence going through this process without me even having to say a word about it. It's astounding. Player will come back to me after session 1 and I'll say, what happened? And they'll list, well, yeah, I woke up here and I woke up there. They'll give me examples. And I'll say, well, what happened when you woke up? Well, this was better, that was better, that was better. They'll list about 4 or 5 things. And I'll say, did we talk about those 4 or 5 things? No. Well, you remember when I told you that as a byproduct, all these other things would start to get better just from you checking in and going through this. And they'll say, yeah, I remember that, but I didn't believe you. I hear that all the time. But I didn't believe you, because it's hard to wrap your mind around, Bernie, that all these other things are going to improve just from this one simple process. But it does. That's what happens. And all that's really happening is that that student is becoming aligned mentally, physically, emotionally, and energetically. Because when you wake up and you check in, that's exactly what's happening. You're in alignment. You're out of alignment, doing things the way you've been doing them. Out of rote habit, that puts you out of alignment, which is why you're having that horrible experience.
Why do you think that happens to most players, David? Is why do you think that they become out of alignment? Because they were never truly in alignment to begin with, or because of situations that happen along the way, and they don't look at stepping back a little bit and looking at the big picture?
Well, I would say that they never really were in alignment. They're kind of walking the tightrope, hoping not to fall, hanging on. And they never really experienced what alignment was, at least not on purpose. Maybe on an occasion when that zone kind of showed up once in a while.
Sure.
Because in my opinion, that's all the zone really is. It's just a state of being in alignment. When your mind, body, emotion, and energy are functioning together without interruption, you're in the zone. That's all it is. So most of us are not in that state very often. We're in a state of misalignment without even realizing it. And here's an example that I give. I often ask people, did you ever wake up, and I'll ask you, did you ever wake up one day and just feel really good for no particular reason?
Sure.
Okay.
Everybody has.
But I'm asking you now, and when you woke up that way, was your day, would you describe the day you had as a better day, an average day, or a worse day?
I would say it would always be better.
Right. Now, everybody's had that experience, but then they don't know why they had that experience. But I'm going to tell you that the only way you could have that experience is if you were in alignment. You woke up in alignment. You don't know how you got there. Something happened overnight, but you woke up in alignment. That's the only reason you could have that kind of day. And so the 7 laws that I teach put people in alignment by virtue of knowing the law, checking in, and having that upgraded, elevated experience. Because once you check in, you're always doing something different than you did before with every single law, which automatically puts you in alignment. That's the key. My goal is to teach people how to be in alignment by teaching these laws that do this automatically as part of the process.
And then they can apply that wire-to-wire process, those 7 laws,
Yes.
to become in alignment in all facets of their life, not just for golf.
Well, yes, of course, because when you're in alignment, you're not only in alignment on a golf course.
Right.
And these laws don't apply to the world of golf solely. That would be crazy. That would be like saying that gravity only works in your basement but not in your bedroom. You can't say that. The laws work everywhere, and you check in wherever you want. You're in alignment whatever situation you're in, you're now in alignment in that situation. It doesn't matter. That's one of the other beauty of the byproducts of Wired to Win, is that it's way beyond whatever somebody generally calls me for. They don't realize it until they start doing it, and then they'll email me or call me and say, hey, I'm applying these things on the job. Is that okay? And I started laughing. What do you mean, is that okay? Of course it's okay. You can't help it. I'm applying this in my relationship with my kids. I'm communicating better. I'm having a better relationship. Is that okay? Yeah, of course. Because the reality is that you're different now. You're living at a higher level of consciousness, and of course you take you wherever you go. So it has to impact you everywhere. It just so happens that you're going to play a better game of golf at the same time. It's kind of something. It's a scenario that I can't stop. You can't separate these things. Not only are you a more conscious and more productive golfer, but you're a more conscious and more productive human being. There's no way to separate those two, Bernie. It's impossible. Can't. So it's an outgrowth of the program. Natural byproduct. It's pretty cool, I have to say.
And it's to me extremely fascinating, because we all want to be better people, and I don't mean better than the other guy. I mean better than we were yesterday to ourselves,
right.
and better in the way that we serve each other, and better the way we serve ourselves. Actually,
that's right. That's right.
And this sounds like this is something that players, most of the people who listen to this show are golfers, but there's a lot out there who might be good golfers and have other things going on in their lives, that this type of program could definitely help.
Well, and that's how all of this started, that I was working with golfers who were, married men with families and careers, and they weren't trying to be professional golfers or anything like that. They're your typical average golfer. They love the game. They want to, they got bitten by the game. They want to play it as well as they can. They want to play it and be successful like they are in other areas of their lives. Some of them run businesses. Some of them are salespeople. Some of them are stay-at-home dads or moms. It doesn't really matter. But what they did discover was, wow, this is impacting me in everything that I do. And that's one of the joys for me. I get a kick out of that. It's great when a golfer says, hey, wow, I dropped my handicap, 7 strokes because of this. Great. But I'm also a happier person. I like that better, personally. I'm a happier person, Dave. I'm applying these laws everywhere, and I just feel differently about myself and about life. Okay. That's a pretty cool thing to hear, Bernie.
That's really a major contribution to humanity, David. It's you're doing it through golf, but it's a major contribution to humanity, and I think that's really what we're here to do, is make our contribution to each other in some way, shape, or form.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And you know what's funny? If people go to the page that I've given you a link to send folks to a page, for any of the people who are listening to this, I'm offering 2 hours of free coaching along with the Wired to Win product. If somebody wants to get the online version of it, which is great. But it's interesting over the years talking to people that what they know is if they could get out of their own way, they'd play better golf. They know that. They know if they could relax more, they'd play better golf. They know that if they could use the power of their mind better, they'd play better golf. And here's what I know. One thing, that you're much closer to playing better golf than you think. Most golfers are much closer, not most, every golfer is much closer to playing better golf than they realize. Because the world has taught us to go read all these books, get all this confusing psychological theory and concepts and data, and that's what we do. But most golfers I talk to are really frustrated. They find it interesting, but they're also frustrated because it doesn't really work. And then they hear about somebody like me and they go, well, you're going to teach me a whole bunch of other things like be positive and psychological stuff? And my answer is no, not a single thing like that. I'm going to teach you 7 laws. And by virtue of those laws, your world is going to change. Period. And to me, Bernie, it's not that I'm brilliant or a guru or anything like that. It's a testament to the human being. It's a testament to the way every human being is put together. We have been given this gift and these tools, a mind, a body, our emotions, and our energy. We have been given these 4 tools to navigate this thing we call life, or navigate this thing we call golf. Doesn't matter. We have been given these tools. I call them your power tools in the program. And by the way, that's what I consider the elements of the mental game. And 4 elements: mind, body, emotion, energy. And those are the tools by which we navigate everything. And so when people learn these laws and have these terrific experiences, it makes me look like a genius, but I know I'm not. What's really a genius is being human. Because when a human body is aligned mentally, physically, emotionally, and energetically, everything they do is better. That's the one guarantee I will make to everybody, that once you're in alignment, everything you do, you will do at a higher level. And that's a testament to being human. I didn't make that happen. All I did was put 7 laws together and give them a name and put them in a sequence. That's all I did. As I mentioned before, I didn't create the laws. They're the laws by which the mind, body, and emotions function together to produce outcomes. That's why they're not principles or theories or anything like that. They are literally laws by which the mind, body, and emotions function together to produce all of our outcomes. They're unavoidable, they're undeniable, and they're provable. That's the best part for everybody. They're provable. Nobody has to believe anything I say.
So what is the best way for our listeners? And I know that we'll have things on our page that shows how to get in contact with you, and but just give me a little bit of an idea of what's the best way they can get in contact with you, and what are some of the ways that you work with your students before we close all this.
Well, I can be contacted directly. Would you like me to offer a phone number?
Absolutely. If you would like to, then that would be wonderful.
Sure, of course. I love when folks call. 818-844-6946 is my cell. I answer my calls. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to call, and we'll set up a time to talk about this. If you want more of an explanation, I'm happy to do so. I can also be contacted via email at david.a. and my last name, Breslow, Breslow, at gmail.com. This information will probably be on the page.
Yeah.
And you can go to a website, which will also be on the page, mentalgolfcoaching.com, where a lot of this information is also there. And the way that I work with clients is generally through two means. I have an online program that teaches the 7 laws, which is very good. The only limitation to that is you can't talk to me, and we can't go any deeper than an audio can go. It's an audio program. 7 laws change the way you think about and play the game, for golf, for tennis, for work, and for personal development. So I have 4 different programs, but all of them teach the same 7 laws. The conversation is just pointed towards whatever that particular audience is.
Sure.
But the 7 laws are the show, no doubt about it. So I either have the online version available, which many people use and have had great success with, or personal coaching, which is the ideal way to go. And that's where the greatest impact is, because that's where we get to converse like you and I are, Bernie. We get to work through things. We get to get much more detailed for what's meaningful in your life, which of course an audio can't do. An audio is an audio. So those are the two main ways that I'm working with people and connecting with them.
Excellent.
Also happy to work with teams. I do many online virtual seminars with a team of, maybe there's a golf team of 6 or 8 or 10 players, or corporate people. I do online seminars so people don't have to travel, teaching these laws and addressing whatever it is that the target audience wants to address, things like that. So online version, live coaching, and online seminars. Those are the 3 main ways that I interact with folks.
Do you ever do any personal appearances also, if it's for groups or things like that?
Yes, I used to do more of them, but people are spending less, on that kind of thing because travel and time. And
sure, of course, and it's much more economical to do it through the web,
right.
Kind of like what we're doing here.
So I'm doing a lot more of that on the web. But will I do that? Sure. There's an organization that wants to have me there live. I'm more than happy to talk with them about that. It's a fun experience. I often do with sports, with golf, for example. I'll do a learn and play where I'll lecture for 2 hours, and then we'll actually go out on the course for 9 holes. And I'll be with each group, excuse me, I'll be with each foursome at different areas on the course, the tee, the fairway, green, and I'll be working these laws with them directly just prior to swinging the golf club. And so, that's a lot of fun to do. If there's ever an opportunity to do that, I love doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like
it is a lot of fun.
It would be enjoyable for everybody involved.
Yeah, they're hearing things they never heard before. And they're seeing this immediate shift, which is something they're not used to doing. They're used to reading the books and studying and having to process all this stuff and kind of figure it out and take time. I'm not doing that with folks. We're doing this like this. We're doing this now. You're shifting now. You're checking in now. You're making a better choice now. You're thinking better now. You're feeling better now. You're setting up better now. You're swinging better now. You're getting a better result now. That's why I love this so much. It's a very now-oriented program.
It's awesome. Well, look, thanks for taking the time and being with us today. Really appreciate it. And until we meet again, do your best to keep it in the short grass if you are playing.
Thank you, sir. It's been my pleasure to be here, and thank you for talking with me.
All right, take care.
Bye.